Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast, the number one podcast in Colorado Springs.
Our highlighted sponsor is, who should our highlighted sponsor be today?
Fast Signs.
Fast Signs, yes. Fast Signs is an awesome company.
Yes. That's one of my favorite ones. Well, today we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Andrew Perkett with COS Hauling. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to talk to you guys again. It's been a long time,
Yeah.
but exciting to be back.
Yeah, man. 2021 was last time. I think it was like summertime. So it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Back then, I was behind the cameras and helping with switching them back and forth, I believe, because I was there for that. And Andrew it was like a one-on-one host kind of thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, it was great, man. I loved it and excited to be back. This space is like so roomy. There's so much room for activity here, which is great.
Yeah.
We made sure of that too, because
Nice.
it's just better for film, but it also feels better.
Yeah.
Feels better.
You didn't like the wool carpet back at the old space?
It was cozy,
I like
but
it.
it's a little tight. But
Yeah.
it was cool, you know?
Yeah.
It was hella tight.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for supporting us and following us for the past several years now and coming back on the show. But today we have a new business. It's only been a year since you've had this business. Talk a little bit about COS Hauling. What's it about, and just a little bit more info about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started in April of last year, so 2023. And, my wife and I were looking for new opportunities. And I had a buddy in Phoenix, actually, who started a junk removal company. And he was like, man, like, you should explore this. You should look into it. And my wife, we have 2 trucks. And then between me and my father-in-law, 3 trailers.
Oh.
So I was like, heck, man, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a go. And just started hauling junk for people. And it was awesome. I mean, beyond, obviously the business side and the financial side, like being able to be a stress relief for people, because with junk, stuff just gets piled up and people have no way to get rid of it, or they don't know how to get rid of it. And so we started to see just the joy it brought people, the stress it relieved out of their lives. And I was like, man, I could do this. Like, this is awesome. I like helping people. My background is, last time I talked about the nonprofit Inherent Foundation. And prior to that, I was a pastor. So I've been in positions of helping people for a long time and wanted to make sure whatever I do is a way to help people. And so it was such an immediate need that we can meet in the city. And so, yeah, it just, from there, we take such a relational approach that we saw it just take off. So we invested in new equipment in August, and we've just been rolling with that ever since. A hydraulic trailer, which is so much better than manually throwing everything out at the dump, So it made my life a little bit easier, but yeah, we've been cruising with that ever since.
That's awesome. Well, there's some definite parallels with what you're doing now with my my tiny house festival, because what I found was that people wanted to live in a tiny house, like screw the man, go live in your own land. But a lot of the people who actually bought tiny houses from the festival were baby boomers who were trying to downsize and had too much crap, and they didn't know what to do besides the fact that they wanted to have a smaller footprint on what they're doing in their lives. And so what we found, I used to call it like the downsizing movement, really what it was. And I found that, like, as baby boomers, as we know now, they're retiring, they're starting to downsize. So it's like perfect timing to have like a hauling company or some kind of junk removal company, because the biggest generation of our lifetime is about to retire. And what are they going to do? They're going to downsize. They're going to get rid of all their junk. Right. And they're going to need more and more businesses like yours to really capture that market share of all those folks. So I'm sure you've seen some of that immediate growth in your business right out of the gate for a year, right?
We have, yeah. So just a year, we've been exploring scaling already and adding some trucks, and because demand has just been so high. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it is again, we genuinely just care about people. So our tag that we came up with was "You're friends with a truck." And the reason is because everybody has that token friend with a truck, right? Like if you need something moved, or if you just bought a washer or dryer, you call your friend with the truck and you're like, hey, could I use your truck this weekend? Could I use your truck, or could you use it to go pick it up? And so we've been those friends for our friends for a long time. And we were just like, man, like we want to have that same attitude with people, and especially people who are just stuck with, downsizing. We have a lot of those jobs of people who are downsizing. They're selling their house. You realize how much stuff you have when you move. You just got to get rid of it. So we have a lot of those jobs come across our table to be able to help those folks.
We're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care. Skip the healthcare hassle with Pinnacle Advanced Primary Care. Direct primary care for a simple monthly fee, putting health first. No insurance needed. Experience personalized care that's as unique as every individual. Visit pinnacleapc.com to learn more. That's pinnacleapc.com. Franchise succeed.
Grow any business with Franchise Succeed. From development to expansion, turning small businesses into national brands through franchising. Start scaling up with a free consultation at franchisesucceed.com today. That's franchisesucceed.com.
Planet Duct. Breathe easier with Planet Duct, Colorado Springs' premier air duct cleaning service. Powerful vacuum trucks rid homes of allergens and dust. Clear the air by visiting planetduct.com. That's planetduct.com.
Epic Eyewear. Elevate style with Epic Eyewear. Innovative designs meet unmatched quality, ensuring a great look and better vision. Discover your next pair of shades at epiceyewear.com. That's epiceyewear.com, spelled EPOCH eyewear.com.
And we're running a special discount right now, Andrew. It's COS BP 15 for 15% off your
15% off your freaking order at epiceyewear.com. We're wearing the sunglasses right now. If you're watching, listening on the audio, definitely check out the video so you can see and check out how epic they are. EPOCH
eyewear.com.
Eyewear.com.
Now we will get back to this episode. For someone like me who doesn't really know anything about your industry, how do you go about charging somebody, like they're emptying out their storage and have a couple things to remove or whatever, it might be a couch or whatever? Like, how do you go about with your pricing for your customers?
Yeah, so we have two different methods of pricing. One of them is by item. So if someone wants just a couch removed or a fridge or a washer and dryer, all of those are priced individually based on what it costs to dump them, right? Outside of that, most of our jobs is just miscellaneous junk.
Bunch of crap.
Yeah, it's just been stacking up in the garage, it's been stacking up outside. And so we just go by volume at that point of our trailers, just under 12 yards. And so it's 7 by 14 feet with 3-foot sides. So it's a pretty good sized trailer, but we just charge based on how much space it takes up in the trailer. And so, we did a lot of research on pricing because one of the things that was important to us. So when I was getting into this, I had some people ask me if I knew of a junk removal company, and I would send them some companies, and I won't drop any names, but I would send them some companies, and it was just so expensive. I mean, they were like, I can't even afford to pay to have junk thrown away. Right. And so we were really intentional about, obviously it needs to work for us as a company, but we can charge less and we can do that. And so, we try and make it, we do have general pricing for volume, but we try and specify it per job, because if you have a trailer full of dirt compared to a trailer full of leaves, that's a very different dump cost. Yeah. It's different labor, it's different dump costs. So we try and just price it per job so we can price it as fairly as we can and to just be lower than the competition.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any like mentors who have done this type of work that you can kind of lean on? Because I have a person in mind. We always mention him on our show, our buddy Levi with High Five. Like, you have a very similar, he's a plumbing company, but I can explain.
HVAC now too.
Oh yeah, an HVAC. But nice. We'll talk about a little bit about him after you, if you talk about any mentors you might have right now.
Yeah, I've got a mentor. He's actually been a good friend for a while. We've both done real estate together, and he also owns a landscaping company in town.
Nice.
Tommy Kenny. So, he's kind of been like a business advisor, coach for me, because he's started a company in the trades, right? So I lean on him a lot. And then I've got my buddy that was, in Phoenix. He actually moved to San Francisco. Shout out Cyrus. Love you, man.
Put his Instagram handle up there.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, we'll throw his Instagram handle in there. Great dude, ex NFL player, but just awesome guy, man. I mean, he's much more than. I think I say that, and a lot of the times it's like, oh, he's an NFL player. Well, he's so much more than that, man. I mean, just cares about people, entrepreneur. So I've learned a lot from him, and we talk often on the phone. So those are probably a couple guys, that I lean on the most in this industry specifically, to just get feedback from and bounce ideas off of and whatnot. So
any YouTubing?
No.
Okay, because I know there's some big junk removal YouTube channels out there.
There are, yeah, and I learned a lot from YouTube when we were starting.
Okay,
some junk removal business owner YouTubes and Facebook pages, that's a lot of where did a lot of learning at first.
Mhm.
It would be fun to start one. I just don't have the time. But
No, I get it. Yeah.
on our social, I love doing the time lapses because they're just so satisfying to see that
Mhm.
pile there and then gone. And then when we do hot tubs, those are the fun time lapses because we cut them into pieces, and I think they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And
Mhm.
describe a little bit about like the end result for the customer, because like a lot of times with junk, sometimes they're kind of attached to that junk too. So it's
Yeah,
kind of hard for them to let go of whatever it might be. Like I remember getting rid of some of my grandfather's stuff when he passed away. I was his caregiver, and that was super rough for my mom,
Yeah.
especially because that was his, they're very, very close.
Yeah.
And so do you have a lot of those moments? And two, like,
yeah.
do you have people who just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I feel like a huge
Mhm.
weight's lifted off of me that I
Yeah.
got all this removed.
Yeah, both and for sure. We have, we run into that. And again, with our business model, I'm not there to just throw the junk in and then leave. And, we try and approach every job with honoring the people, and there is a lot of value in things. There's nostalgic value. There is attachment. And so there's even been a job where I was like, how about you think on this one? And if you want it gone, I'll just come back and get it whenever. I'm not going to charge you more for it. It's a part of the price, but think on it and I'll come back. Like I'm not worried about it, right? Because we understand that. And we also have had people who come out and look at the space so this is kind of a good opportunity for me to talk a little bit about our mission and our values and all of that. So our mission statement as a company is to leave our world better than when we arrived. So I played football through college. I've coached it. And one of the things we always told our athletes, like when you're in a locker room, leave it better than what you found it. Right. So I kind of adopted that motto for our company as well.
Mhm.
And it's threefold for us. It's on the job site with our clients and then ultimately in our city. And so on the job site, we do our best I always have a rake and a shovel and barrels with me so that we're not just picking up the big junk, throwing it in and leaving. Like I'm raking, I'm picking up, making sure all the trash is picked up. If there's extra twigs, we're picking it up. And it's those moments that people are shocked because they're like, yeah, it's nice that the junk is gone, but like this space actually looks like I could do something with it, right? Because before it was like I had no use for it. And now they're like, not only is it stress relief, but now I have new purpose for this space, right? So on the job site, again, with the clients, I love talking with clients, having conversations. I probably spend too much time doing it. Most business coaches probably tell me to dial it back a little bit, but we love it, right? And just care about people. We want their day to be better after they've worked with us. And then ultimately in our city, I did a job yesterday, and me and one of our employees, we were doing the job at this house, and there's an empty lot right next to it. And some people had just thrown a bunch of trash in that lot, and it was dirtied. And, and we were just like, man, we've got time. Let's just clean up that lot too. So we went through, cleaned up the trash because ultimately we want to leave. I mean, we named our business after the city, because I grew up here. I love the city. We want to see it just grow and be better, and we want to be a part of that. So we just took an extra 30 minutes, cleaned up the extra trash in there. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a long answer to your question, but we run into all of that, but that's, again, it's within our mission of just caring for people, making sure that when we leave, their day is better than before we got there. Right.
That's awesome. And I think that attributes to your experience of being a business owner, because no one goes into their first business being like, hey, I want to set up a mission statement and have these systems in place for, these different things when I'm handling customers and leaving a place much better than where I found it. That's attributing to your experience and being a business owner. And so beyond even COS hauling, you have your real estate business, and then you have a newborn at home as well, right?
I do, yeah.
So how do you balance all of that? And I'm assuming a lot of it has to do with your systems for your business, but talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of intentionality. Before, when I was younger, it was a lot of just, I'm going to go day by day, figure it out. But now there's just so much intentionality and structure in my life and in my family's life, right? Of really intentional when I'm with my family, but just, I have to schedule my weeks out down to the minute essentially, and really just stay disciplined to that schedule. I'm sitting and I'm blocking out times every single day for real estate and for hauling and for family. And I think a lot of people feel guilty when they schedule family time. I know I speak from my experience, and I've talked to other people who feel that way. where I felt kind of guilty, but I was like, man, once I did that, it allowed me to be so much more present. And because there was nothing else scheduled for that time, but to just be with my family. Right. And so it allows me, when I have these specific blocked off times every week, to just be fully present with whatever I'm doing, whether it's hauling, real estate, or time with the family. Right. And so it's just called me to a new level of discipline, of really just having a structure in my life, with my schedule and everything.
How do you keep that discipline? Like what, because discipline is something I struggle with.
Yeah.
Because you can block out as much time as you want, but if you can't be disciplined, then it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I think the key for me was that I think we confuse discipline and motivation a lot. I'm rarely motivated to keep my schedule.
Exactly,
or I'm rarely motivated to wake up early and do what I need to do, or, and if I'm tired at the end of the day, I'm not motivated to, play with my son a whole bunch because I'm tired. But, discipline isn't always doing something because you want to do it, and I think we're always waiting to be motivated, and it just doesn't happen often. Like, I get motivated when something's brand new, and then after a while I get kind of used to it and I'm like not as motivated anymore. Right. But that's where discipline kicks in, is when I sit down. I have one thing is I have my goals in front of me all the time, like what we're trying to accomplish, where we're trying to go. And that's, when I see those goals, I'm like, I know what I need to do today in order to reach those goals. And that's discipline, right? And I think the best quote I heard for discipline is you give up what you want now for what you want later, right? If you're working out, right, you're going to give up, you want that pie right now, but you also have these goals, and that that's not going to get you there. So you're choosing not to get for where you want to be in 5-10 years or whatever it is. So that to me is how I kind of stay on track, is I have my goals in front of me, and I'm not waiting to be motivated. I'm just living in, I know I need to do this, and this has to be done. And it is motivating when you have a family, because I'm self-employed, right? I'm not guaranteed a paycheck and income, and you guys understand that. And so, there is a sense of motivation of like, I got to do this for my family too. But that definitely helps with that discipline part of it.
For sure.
Do you think, because I know from my experience, I played football, Pine Creek High School, and I attribute a lot of my discipline to those early days of just being young, but learning the right. And my mom was like very disciplined too. So like having a very disciplined mom as a parent role model, and then having football, and working together as a team to have something, achieve things bigger than yourself. I think all those different things just help me inherently be just disciplined, because the way that I've always found is like, I don't even think about the things that just need to be checked off the list every morning. They're audible already.
Right.
They're ready to rock and roll. And like, my mind is thinking about actually something else while I'm doing them, and sometimes it's like a 5-mile run. I do it every other day or whatever it might be, but I'm not thinking, crap, I gotta do a 5-mile run today. Like, as soon as I wake up, I'm like, oh crap, it's an hour until I gotta do it. I just kind of it's already like naturally a part of my schedule. And I think that helps. I don't know if it's the same for you too, because you said football, you mentioned that as well.
I attribute a lot of who I am as far as discipline and just work ethic to sports, especially football, teamwork, all of that stuff. I mean, the hardest part about this was, prior to having employees, was I hated doing it on my own. Like, I wanted a team to do it with. Right. And so it's fun to have people on our team now to get to work together and have that camaraderie it's more satisfying. It's more productive. Like, we're always better when we're on a good team. And so, I attribute a lot of that drive to sports. And same way. I mean, my parents were, when I started playing high school football, I'll never forget, they talked to the coach in front of me, and they were like, listen, we're here to cheer you on. Your coach, if you need to yell at him, if you need to, whatever you need to do it, And I'll never forget, my sophomore year was the first game I started, and I was actually playing a outside linebacker, and I was supposed to have contain. I'll never forget this. This is
So explain to people about what contain means when you're talking.
So I'm not supposed to let anybody get outside of me, right? So if they hand the ball off, they try and get outside towards the sideline. I got to push them back inside, right? So I failed to do that. The guy got outside and scored a touchdown. I walked off to the sideline, took off my helmet, and just threw it on the ground. The pads came out of the helmet, and my coach came up to me, and he looked at me. He said, "Put your helmet on." So I put it on. He told me to put it on so he could grab my face mask and yell at me.
Oh, yeah.
And after the game, I was riding home with my parents and they were like, yeah, you asked for that, where I feel like some parents would be maybe upset about that. And they were like, yeah, you had it coming, So having that balance of coaches who were hard on, and our coaches always said, I'm sure they said the same thing to you. If we're not yelling at you or correcting you, it means we don't believe in you, right? It means we don't think you can be better. And so having that push, definitely helped in my mindset of just having a level of drive and doing the hard things to be successful.
Yeah. And if you know that too, like if your coach tells you that if we're not yelling at you, and if you keep that in your head, it's going to help keep you in check when you do get angry, or if you want to get upset at them for being mad at you, you can revert back to that. What they told you. It's like, okay. Okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. It's a great perspective to have, and to just keep yourself in check and to just have thick skin, because not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to love what you do, so having the perspective of being able to move forward and not let that ruin your day either is, I think, really valuable. So yeah.
I think a strong male in any young man's life is very important, because I think it's that firm love that you can't get anywhere else than a father figure or a male role model. Yeah. And I think it's important, especially if you're trying to build strong men up, like firm men who have to go through some hard things in order to progress, and men want to feel respected. So that's a big piece of it too. So I think that's a great learning lesson. Like someone other than your own father, like doing that, someone that you probably respected doing that, probably meant a lot. And like, especially if the message is received, then mission accomplished, right? It's like, you screwed up, and by the way, you overreacted, and like, I'm going to get after you for both things, by the way.
Right.
Because one, you shouldn't have done that because I told you the assignment. Two, like, what are we doing here? What are we overreacting for? Like, get it together, get your head in the game and move forward. And I think that's important.
Yep. I agree. I think it's really valuable to have, our kid he's a little boy, so I have a son, and by no means do I intend to be the only male role model in his life. I've got great friends and other men that get to be around him, and can't wait to take him on camping trips with these guys who I know are going to be, just positive influences for him, because it takes a team, right? It takes a tribe. It takes multiple people to raise strong little humans, whether they're boys or girls. It just takes more than just, me and my wife, for sure.
And on that note, I think it's a good time to cut to our sponsor.
We'd like to take a quick moment and thank our sponsors.
Redefine Mortgages.
Redefine the home buying experience with Redefine Mortgages. Custom solutions, transparent advice, and even seamless process. Start the journey to home ownership at redefinemortgages.com. That's redefinemortgages.com.
Neon Pig Creative. Bring brands to life with Neon Pig Creative. Dazzling designs and strategic marketing make businesses stand out. Spark creativity at neonpigcreative.com. That's neonpigcreative.com.
Exponential Impact. Fuel startup success with Exponential Impact. Mentorship, resources, and support available to amplify impact. Join a community of change makers at exponentialimpact.com.
That's exponentialimpact.com.
Fast Signs.
Fast Signs can help you with all your signage and visual marketing needs. Whether you're starting a new business or just need a signage refresh, let Fast Signs help you. Make your statement. That's fastsigns.com.
Cars Helping Charities. Cars Helping Charities is a turnkey fundraising solution for nonprofits. Cars Helping Charities allows your nonprofit to accept vehicle donations, which are sold, and then the funds go to the organization. CHC is partnering with my nonprofit of choice, Mattersville, to help them raise funds through vehicle donations. Please consider donating your car to support Mattersville. CHC will pick up any car, an old clunker you have sitting in your driveway, or a car you just don't feel like selling anymore. Make sure to visit carshelpingcharities.org. That's carshelpingcharities.org.
Now let's get back to the show. All right, and we're back.
I know you're only a year into your business right now, but they call it the trough of sorrow, which is like essentially the moment after like the excitement of a new business wears off. You got the logo, you got the t-shirts, got the first sale. But after a while, it wears off and you go through some adversity. So have you faced some of that already your first year in business, or has it just been pretty good so far?
No, we've definitely faced, adversity and learning. I got to be honest, I hate bookkeeping, and like any level of like admin is not my skill.
Same.
So learning how to do that has been a bumpy road, being able to, but that's at the same point, like, I'm hiring folks to do that now. yeah, it's more money out of my pocket, but it's also frees me up to do the things that I'm good at and the things that I enjoy, which is to me more valuable than, anything else. So, but it definitely has been. I mean, just learning, right, in a new industry. I wasn't very familiar with the industry before I got into it. So learning a whole new industry just comes with you severely underbid some jobs. You severely overbid some jobs, right? And just trying to find that sweet spot comes with a lot of aches and pains, growing pains. And so overall it's been good. We've grown quite a bit, but in that it's definitely been just a lot of those challenges of learning the industry and how to do it and how to do it well and how to be different, right? It's easy to fall into just how everyone else does it.
Right.
And that's one thing I was really intentional of, like, I want to stand out. I want to be different. And it's a lot of extra work to try and figure out how you can do that.
We definitely have some people to look after for sure. Levi Torres with High Five Plumbing. We mentioned him. I've mentioned him all the dang time on this show for sure, but it's just a plumbing, and they just added HVAC, right, Andrew? And tell Andrew a little bit about like High Five Plumbing and why I would even mention them besides, obviously just being another service-based business.
For a second, I was confused there. When you said tell Andrew, I thought you were telling me. I was like,
I could make something up there.
Sorry, say that again.
So like tell them a little bit about like High Five Plumbing and like why they're so special too, because you're talking about standing out. They're a company that stands out quite a bit, and it's pretty cool. Andrew's had some experience because he's helped them even put together a podcast for their business. But
well, I think that they really invest in their employees. I think that's another company that does great on that is Quick Trip. Quick Trip is coming to Colorado right
it's
now.
An outside joke thing. With
they got 12. It was an outside joke now. They got 12 locations in Colorado. They just opened their first one like just a couple years ago. They grow rapidly. One thing that's amazing about them, the same with Levi and High Five Plumbing, is they really invest in their employees. They invest in training. They invest in like really good customer service. And I think that's what a great company should do. And it can be easy to forget all that stuff if you're caught up in all the admin stuff that you're not good at. Like if you're caught, and it's like, it's about the delegating. There's just so many aspects about business. It's just, it's wild. It's hard to keep it together.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're also culture first. Like both of those companies, like they invest so much into the culture. And like, so when you put on the uniform or whatever, like you're proud because one, you're the best. Two, you're the best. And three, you know what comes with being the best and the standards that, I guess if you fall to your own standards, they're still the best. And this is why. Best training, best culture. I mean, they do an hour of training every single day or something crazy. They have a training room in the middle of their building. I worked at a big marketing agency. It was like a tech-based like Google agency. And it was like very similar to the agency I worked at for a plumbing company. Yeah. Just crazy. They even had like a manifesto on all the walls, and every little piece of their new build out of their facility embodies what it means to be a High Five Plumbing employee. And not only that, but like highlighting every single customer. They have like a high five for every customer that they take a picture with. And every single one of their customers like just seem so stoked that they're going the extra mile for a plumbing job. Like it's just insane, but it works. You know?
I think when you do that, when you invest in your employees, they're happy to be at the job. Right. And that bleeds through everything. To go back to Quick Trip example as well, like there's been like come and goes or Mavericks or all that stuff where I go to inside them and the employee feels kind of like they don't want to be there. Yeah. And I've never been to one Quick Trip where the employee didn't feel happy. Like and that shows because they actually pay them a good wage, not a little wage, you know? And so that rubs off, like, and it trickles down to every aspect of it, I think. And so I think investing in employees is massive. Yeah,
I agree. I read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and he talks about Southwest Airlines, where their whole mantra is like their employees first, right? Which is why they have such great employees. You know, it's why my wife and I only fly Southwest, because you're always going to have a couple bad experiences. We've had a couple, but for the most part, like their employees are awesome. But that's the challenging thing, or the temptation, I guess, is to value your customers more. But man, so like when a customer complains, then you know, you're just either chewing out your employee, you're making them the bad guy. But when people work for a place where it's like, no, this person believes in me, they have my back, they support me. Yeah, there's so much more motivation to be a part of it and to enjoy it and to just buy in, right? Like culture. creating a culture that people can buy into, which is, that was the challenging thing of starting a junk removal company, because part of my question was like, well, how much culture and value can you have in junk removal?
Right.
And the more I did it, the more it was just so apparent that I was like, man, like we are helping people with really valued items. So when we approach it with honor and respect, that's a whole different experience. And then when we have this mantra of you're friends with a truck, so we tell our employees, that means it's on the back of our shirts, man. So it means that we treat everybody the way we treat our friends. Like that's things that people can buy into. But I completely agree. I mean, I think a lot of businesses miss out on that, like really caring for the people who are pouring into your culture, who are an extension of yourself in your business. I mean, that's essential, right? So I love that. And I love Quick Trip. I went to school. I went to college in the Midwest.
Okay, nice.
And so we would always stop at Quick Trips. And
is it true? Like what I said, like every time you go there, the employees, you don't feel like they don't want to be there.
Yeah, right. That and I got to shout out Buc-ee's too, man.
See, I haven't been to Buc-ee's yet.
We got to go to NoCo, because don't they have one in Northern Colorado right now? Yeah.
I haven't been to that one yet, but yeah, we've been to them in Texas, but it's the same thing, man. I mean, you could just go on a date there and hang out for a while,
I can't believe I've never been to Buc-ee's before. My family's all in Texas too.
Really?
Never been.
It's awesome.
Based on what I'm seeing on the internet, Buc-ee's has a similar vibe to what Quick Trip's doing.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
It's bigger though too, right? It's like this huge thing, right?
Massive.
Like the size. Each store.
Yes.
But I think Quick Trip's winning. It's not a competition.
Andrew likes Quick Trip.
He loves it, dude. Jeez. He loves it.
I will fight for Quick
He sent
Trip.
me like a whole case study on their employees like last night, actually to all of our friends.
Oh yeah, there's a Harvard case study or a Harvard business study from 2010 speaking on the same thing. And now like 15 years later almost, like they've doubled their size. Like it's a testament to what that article was talking about. Like it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And speaking on to that, there's another example. Gary Vaynerchuk has a good story that he tells where one of his employees like messed up. This was like a client that was maybe half of their revenue at the time that this was happening. And the client messed up, and that not the client, the employee messed up with that client, and the client told them he had to fire that client in order for them to stay with him, and he said bye. And then they actually stayed with him because of that, actually.
Wow.
So he didn't even lose the client
or
his employee. So
yeah. Win-win. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's tough, especially when you have employees that make maybe bad decisions too, so totally get it. And culture is like so important. And like for you to develop that is awesome. I've been reading a book. I've been telling Andrew, because one of his bosses is like actually a client of have you heard of Dan Martell? Have you heard of him?
Yep.
So I was reading his book on Audible. He was talking about like 80% done for you is 100% awesome. So meaning when you delegate things, don't expect it to be perfect.
Yeah.
But even if it's at 80%, that's great, because then you can take your daughter to her first day of kindergarten, or your son or whatever, to like, it's 100% amazing for you to get your time back, which is most important. And I love that. And it's very, very challenging, especially in the very beginning when it's just you. You know how to do everything exactly right. And by the way, no one's probably ever going to do it exactly as good as you. And so to give away those controls is like one of the hardest things, I think, in entrepreneurship, and learning that lesson from becoming solopreneur to like a business owner with employees. And so you said you've been starting to do that and delegate. How has that process been for you as well?
I love it, man. I love it. I love getting stuff off my plate, and especially when it is people who know more than I do. When I'm talking about bookkeeping and accounting, I don't know a lot about that. And so when I can hire someone who I know is a lot better than me, I'm happy to give that off. Right. The hard thing is things like driving the trailer, and, there's a little bit more risk in that.
Right.
And so, but at the same time, I couldn't agree more, when I'm working with employees, and I was so proud because that job yesterday we did of cleaning up the lot next to us, I didn't even initiate it. The guy who was working with me did. And so there was like a proud dad moment where I was like, yes, man. I'm like, that's what we're about, So seeing, and that's what I think great leadership is, and by no means am I saying like I'm a great leader, but I do think leaders find people to replace themselves. Right. And there's a temptation of the ego to get in the way of saying like, well, no one can fill my spot.
Right.
No one can, but I hope someone can, because I hope they excel. I hope they do better than me, because, I want to raise up people that can do that, because then it does give me more time with my family, and they might do it differently, but it doesn't mean it's wrong either. Right. So I'm a big fan and advocate of delegating. I don't want to do all the work, but I think that's also just a part of my personality. I'm not about it, about doing all the work. So I love being able to start passing stuff off. I mean, even my wife, she's a very administrative minded person. So she
great.
does a lot of that for us. Yeah. It's a good balance for sure. So she's a huge help. She's super supportive. So it's just cool to have those people around, supporting and helping push forward.
He also mentions in his book, which is super cool. He talks about like asking for outcomes rather than like a task done.
Yeah.
So like he says, I hire employees to tell me what to do. So like if I'm hiring Andrew to run my operations, like I want you to come to me with a solution for my problem. Like right now in operations, I might not have all the employees I need to show up on this time, or maybe I need to scale and employ more or whatever it might be. But we need more production on this side. Come to me with a solution for whatever that is. In other words, tell me what to do. Like tell me what your solution is to the problem. And I think that's just a great way to ask, as opposed to be like, check this off the list. Okay, now come back to me. Now check this off the list. Now come back. It doesn't really, there will be a bottleneck when you have so many people doing that for you at once.
Totally.
My marketing agency, we have like 15 different subcontractors. And like, I was seeing that where I'm like, oh, you go do this for me. And they come back. You go do this and they come back. And like, after a while, I go freaking have lunch and go to the bathroom, and like there's like 60 people like looking for what's next,
Yeah,
I'm like, what the hell? So like you let people own what they do, and then like them create something from whatever you empower them to do is like super important. It's hard to do, but like you get the right people in place, you can definitely do that.
It is, and I think there's nothing more satisfying than the people you have, just seeing them excel, right? I mean. It's so encouraging, and it's so satisfying to just see these people excel and take that next step and take initiative. I mean, for me, like that's so exciting. I love that, and it just it gets me excited.
I think I'm more on the visionary side of entrepreneurship, like the what's the opposite side of that? Like you got the visionary, and then you got the tech.
It's really a person who just like operates or like executes on the things that you're saying, and then like the visionary is kind of just painting the picture.
Well, maybe, I don't know. You got
like
Steve,
strategist.
You got Steve Jobs. He still did stuff, but he was more of the visionary. And then you had Steve Wozniak, who actually like put the computers together.
That's what I'm saying. He like got stuff done essentially.
And then I do both actually. So, but like the interesting thing though is with business is I get stuff done, but I think I lean more on the business or the visionary side of it. I forgot what I was going with that.
But it's important to identify that, like who you are in your own business and where you kind of fit into the piece, because if you don't, like you can be stuck running through the same broken record over and over again.
Spinning your wheels.
Yeah, spinning your wheels. And that's why I'm saying, like, you starting this business, you can already tell, oh, you leapfrogged over that. Oh, you already know about culture, systems in place. I need a hire. I need a delegate. Like a lot of people don't get there. Like,
why do you think that is?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that question. I mean, it's like, I have to be very clear. This is not something that I just like knew,
For sure.
I wasn't just like woke up one day. I was like, I know what I need to do. It's so much trial and error of both sides of me following people who didn't do that. Right. And experiencing that side of it, but then also not doing it well as a leader, and having, fortunately, and I'm so thankful for this, having people who I've led be honest with me, right? Of saying like, hey, I don't feel like you're really empowering us, or I don't feel this or that, right? So having people who are able to be honest with me and hold me accountable has helped me to learn in the areas and the times that I've failed in that, and will continue to do so. But then also being in a position where, under leadership that didn't empower me, and feeling the frustrations of that. And I had a mentor who, we were getting coffee and I was just venting about how frustrated I was about this guy I was under and following. And he just looked at me and he was like, man, but you have to go through this in order to become the leader that you want to be.
Totally.
Right. And it just put in a whole new perspective where he's like, now, because you've experienced this, you are far less likely to treat people that follow you that way. And so while it was a really frustrating season, like I know what it feels like, and I don't want anyone to ever feel like that under my leadership or in my business. So those are the ways, again, trial and error, that I got to the point that I'm at now of understanding that. And as we get older and working on our ego, we have a really natural ego, and learning to be humble and approach, and just like, I just think it comes down to seeing people as people, right? Your employees aren't employees, like they're people, and to treat them like people and to care about them they have families, they have emotions and lives, right? And to look at them in that perspective and really care for people in that way is just, it helps your perspective a lot, right? They're not just a money sign, like they're a beating heart and blood running through their veins, they're a soul. Like that's, that just helps me a lot in that perspective.
Yeah. So you're a year in.
Yeah.
Obviously day one, you probably didn't have any employees. How did day one look like?
Yeah. I think about my first job often. So I had, is sort of like, I used my father-in-law's is like a utility trailer. So open sides, had to strap everything down with ratchet straps, and just had no idea what I was doing. I remember driving on the landfill the first time and being like, at the again, I mean, it's kind of where ego comes in, but you get to the door and they're like, okay, you're good to go. And I'm like, where am I going? Like they're like, just follow the road and, all that stuff, so, but I'll never forget that job. I was down in Fountain, cleaned up some stuff on the side of these people's houses and looking back, I'm pretty critical of myself. So I'm like, God, I could have done this better and this better, but it's all a part of the process. Right. So it was awesome, man. We've got pictures on our Instagram of the trailers we started out with. I had a little 8-foot trailer, but man, having a bunch of stuff that you're strapping down like chairs and grills and boxes, I remember doing a job that was all cardboard boxes that filled up a 14-foot trailer that was open. And so I used,
break them down each?
Oh yeah. Broke each of them down, had to use like 16 straps to make sure every single thing, like nothing was going to fly out of the trailer, so that's where we started. And then, so anyway, that was the beginning. It was, my wife helped me out a lot. If there was, stuff that was a 2-person carry and everything, which was helpful. And then she got, pregnant. And so couldn't help us much there. So it was interesting just navigating all of that. But yeah, it was nice to upgrade to the trailer that we have now. It's like, cause like I said, going to the dump and manually throwing everything off, and you're spending an hour at the dump just getting everything off the trailer. It's kind of, it feels like it was forever ago, and it feels like it was just yesterday. It's kind of weird, because it was only a year ago, but it's fun to think back to though.
How'd you get that job?
I think that was through Thumbtack.
Oh, okay.
So we started on Thumbtack.
Yeah.
So we started on Thumbtack and Yelp. Is what we started on just to get some jobs going. And so, we got it through Thumbtack, and she gave us our first review too. She gave us a 5-star, and I was on my high horse, and I was like, man, like, look at us go, first job, 5 stars, like we're crushing it,
What was the time frame between the conception of the idea and then that first job?
Probably about 2 months.
2 months? Okay.
Yeah, so it went pretty quick because, for me, like when I come across a good idea, or what I think is a good idea, I should say, I don't know always when they're good ideas, but it just seemed right. And again, I heard people were paying for junk removal, and I was like, man, I could do this for so much less and provide what I think is a better service.
Yeah.
So it took about 2 months, like between finding the name of it. It was actually funny. It's kind of twofold how we got our name. I was between, my wife's name is Bree and I'm Andrew. So we were going to do A and B junk removal. We played around with that idea, and I was looking for URLs, and AB junk wasn't available, and AB junk removal, I think was, but then it didn't feel right because I'm a visionary too. And I was like, I don't want to just be stuck in junk removal. If there's ever opportunity, I want to expand out of that. So what's a more general term? It was hauling. And then my wife and I were talking, and we're like, well, what if we name it after the city? Like, we love this city. She's a native. I've been here since I was 2, so she doesn't let me have the native title, but it's all right.
We talked about that on the last episode.
Did we?
I remember that.
Okay. Yeah. I still talk about it because I'm a little jealous, but it's okay. But yeah, so we looked up the URL for coshauling.com, and it was available. And so
that's great.
I purchased it. I got the LLC, and we were off and rolling. Got the logo made, and we were cruising from there. So it was about 2 months.
2 months though is probably exciting. Just like you had the idea.
Yeah.
Because I know when I get a business idea, I just am in it, and it's like you get the idea, and it's just like almost like a fever dream. And it's like you're just going through everything and putting it all together.
Which is fun. I loved it. I loved creating the getting the logo made, getting the website built, getting shirts made, like that is the fun stuff of starting a business. So I had a blast and I flew through it because I was just having so much fun with it. So yeah, it was a fun process.
So COS Hauling, so you had hauling in the name. So obviously, like you said, you didn't want to just limit it to like junk removal.
Yeah.
So is there a bigger plan in place then? So if you expand, say next 5 years, is hauling looking like, big old fleet of 18 wheelers? Like, what does that mean? You know?
It could. Yeah. And I'm open to whatever it looks like. We've got some ideas, some that aren't fleshed out yet. So I don't want to just like spit them out that aren't really fleshed out. But I will say, towards the end of this year, next year, you should see us in a different arena as well as alongside junk removal. So, but I've thought about, towing or 18 wheelers or whatever it is, it just, for me, it leaves it wide open for whatever we end up being able to land in or whatever opportunities come across. Which again, like I just didn't want to pigeonhole us in one area. And we might just be in that area forever, but it gives us the opportunity to expand outside of that if we want to. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking when you were starting this whole thing about how AI has affected so many businesses, especially like business where like you're inputting something into a computer, right? Like, as AI can just spit you so much information back, but it hasn't really affected a lot of like the service-based companies like landscaping or maybe hauling junk. But if we're talking about hauling and towing, maybe eventually autonomous vehicles could come into play. I'm not sure if you've thought that far ahead. That's super far ahead, but or maybe it's not
even that far.
Yeah, maybe Elon said 5 years ago though, so it keeps getting pushed back little by little.
Right.
But have you thought about, or have you even incorporated any type of, like the past year and a half of AI technology into your business whatsoever? Or
not really. Again, it's something that I'm open to. I'd love to. Again, if I can delegate, whether it's to a human or AI, like I'm happy to do it. But we haven't thought about it a ton. No.
Those are famous last words.
I know. I know. It scares me a little bit. I've seen too many movies, but it is a really cool asset. And frankly, like I don't know enough about it. Right. So sure. I need some company like Recon or something to help me with some AI.
Yeah, you've also been a little bit busy starting a business in the past year. So
yeah.
You've probably been immersing yourself in that. And by the way, being a father. So.
Right. Learning that's a whole new adjustment. Learning to do that, but it's cool.
You can't delegate that.
No. No.
Some people do. They get nannies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, can't delegate that.
I love what we were talking about before we started rolling, but you're telling me a little bit about fatherhood and how you kind of fallen in love with it, even though you have so much on your plate already. Talk a little bit about that as well. I thought that was like a really cool perspective from you.
Yeah, man. One of the things that drives me nuts happened when we got married, happened before we had a kid, but people are so like pessimistic, right? Where what we kept hearing about marriage was like, oh, the first year's the worst. Everyone just kept saying that. And we were like, thank you for the encouragement. Like, I'm now so excited for marriage. Like, what do you say? How about you come with solutions instead of the problem of, the first year can be hard, but here's some things that make it better and make it a little easier. Here's what you can expect. And it's the same thing with having a kid where everyone's like, oh, it's so hard. It sucks. You don't ever sleep. You don't ever. And that was frustrating to me, always hearing that. So I try and take a more optimistic approach when I talk to friends, especially who don't have kids, because what no one told me, and probably the coolest thing that happened is I think as humans, we've gotten so far away from our natural instincts of being humans, of being able to survive and all these things. Like we have heat, we have AC, we have things to keep us comfortable. And I think we've gotten so far away from human instincts that this was probably the first time in my life I really just felt these deep instincts kick in of I can go off of 3 hours of sleep, no problem now. Before I was getting 6 to 8. And if I got less, I was struggling the next day. Right. But with my son, I could go off 3 hours of sleep and I would be just fine the next day. And I just attribute it to like, you have these instincts as humans that we've denied for so long. But the thing I tell people is like, you really can't comprehend the love that you have for your own child. Like when you see yourself in this kid, I mean, you love them so much that I will go however many nights without sleep that I have to to make sure that you're taken care of, to make sure that you're loved. And from my perspective as a husband and a father, it's not just for my kid, it's for my wife, because what women go through with, what's his name? The comedian, Jim Gaffigan talks about it, right? He's like, it's amazing what women do. Like they grow this human inside of them for 9 months. And then they use their body to give birth to this child. And then they use their body to keep it alive by feeding it. And and I'm sitting over here like,
yeah,
scratching
your head.
I did very little to get us here, So, but it's, when you like, for me, it was, I got to make sure she's okay. She has water. She has comfortable pillows. She's comfortable. Like she's keeping our kid alive. Right. And then taking him and taking care of him too. And it's the least I can do. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned through this is just, it's sad to me seeing marriages end and seeing people fall away from each other. And through all of this, like my wife and I have grown so much closer to each other because we've had to be so intentional with serving each other. Right. And I think it's a capacity thing where as we go throughout life, like where we allow it, our capacity increases. And I think capacity to love people is built through serving people. So the more we serve people, the more capacity we develop inside of ourselves to love that person. And so being able to be humble and serve the people in your family and the people that you love just increases your love for those people. And that's what we've experienced in these months. So yeah, we went a couple months without a lot of sleep, but here we are. My wife and I are closer. We have a son who we love so much, who's the coolest little dude in the world. And, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's just been such an incredible experience across the board.
That's awesome. Well put, sir, for
Thank
sure. You. And I'm assuming you said you're self-employed. Is your wife self-employed as well?
She's not. So she's a paralegal at the DA's office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So she's really doing great in her career.
Right.
While I'm out here trying to like start all these things, she's keeping a steady income coming in.
Right.
Which has been great. So she's crushing it. And she's a volleyball coach. So she coaches club volleyball and she's the head volleyball coach at Rampart High School. So she's a stud, man. She's awesome.
That's awesome. So how do you take care of the little one with wife being at work? Are you staying at home and you're working from home?
So we've got family in town. Both our parents are in town. So we're super blessed to, we don't have to do daycare or anything. So we drop them off with family and they get to hang out with and take care of him. And then I stay home 1 day a week and get to hang out with him. So I just do a bunch of office work and he's there hanging out. So that's how, and then she works from home on Fridays. So she gets him on Fridays. So yeah, we're super blessed to have the setup that we do with family in town.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, when it's probably your first career being a pastor, or at least one of your first. How has that affected everything that you do with, obviously with your family and business?
Yeah.
How does your faith exist amongst all of that as well?
Yeah, man, not just mine, but our faith is really everything to us. Everything that we're doing now, like we just want to help people. We want to bless people. We want to make money so we can be generous. And, I'll never forget when I was in high school, I was going on a mission trip to Africa. I was super excited, but I could not get the money raised. It was $3,000. And talked to a guy, close family friend, and he was like, give me a couple days. Then 2 days later, he goes, hey, your whole trip's paid for. You're covered. To this day, I don't know who did it, who it was.
What?
But from that day on, I was like, man, like I want to do that for people, But to me, like I said, my faith is everything. It's the reason, I believe it's the reason that we're here. I believe there's a bigger purpose to everything that we do. The people we interact with, the impact that we make of just loving people, man, is what I believe, is just displayed throughout the Bible and throughout the life of Jesus. And that's just the approach that I want to take, is just, anytime we're on a job or with our employees, or just showing people love and care, no matter who they are, no matter what they do, and just showing them a love that they may have never experienced before. So that's just, we're still in ministry in my perspective. I've been able to pray for a couple people on jobs. Cause that's just, I could go on, but it really is the most important thing to us. And again, it's another driving factor for us to just be at a place where we can bless people, we can help people financially, we can help people with a place to stay, whatever it looks like, being able to do that for folks.
Gosh, that's awesome, man. That's so great. There's one thing I heard a while back, and I thought it was so cool about my faith, because I'm a fellow Christian too. But it says that like God gives the test before the lesson. And I thought that was a really cool way of saying things, because there's been oftentimes anybody in any, I mean, they don't have to be Christian, but they find themselves in situations like, why am I going through this? This is awful. Like, there can't be any possible lesson for what the hell I'm going through right now.
Right.
Like, I do not deserve this. And it could be a string of just really bad things happening financially, emotionally, partner leaving, or whatever it might be in someone's life that's making their life very, very challenging, very, very hard at that time. But you always find a lesson from it. You know, like that's why they always say hindsight's 20/20. And it's such an interesting like piece of life. And if you're a person of faith like us, like it's such a beautiful part of like God's lessons is how I take it, right? And it's beautiful, right? Because like I don't know why that is, but like when you're in the thick of it, you can't see. Sometimes it's so hard to see why you're going there, and you might not know, you know? And so I'm sure like you as an entrepreneur have gone through like that. You're like, man, why this, why that? And like, I think when you have faith, it's just that one little piece that just keeps you going forward. Like even if it's nothing else, at least it's your faith that keeps you pushing forward.
Well, and to be, even transparent for a sec, January through March this year was a really tough 3 months for us. Not just like business world, but just like life stuff happening and things going on that were unexpected. Like just a lot of stuff happening at once. And one of my favorite authors is A.W. Tozer. And he says in one of his books that the way to deeper knowledge of God is through the lonely valleys of soul poverty and the abnegation of everything. So it's through these low times that actually increase our capacity to understand who God is and the plans that he has for us, as you're saying. And so, I remember praying through this and just, I was angry. I believe too, like we can go to God with all of our emotions. Like prayers don't have to look a specific way. Like you can go to him with your anger, your sadness, whatever it is. And I did. And I just had this overwhelming piece of like, you don't know what I'm doing and you might never know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something and I'm working this out for your good. It was maybe he's protecting us from something. Maybe he's, I don't know what it is. And the thing is like, we may never know. That's the reality of it. Like the rest of our lives, we may not ever know, but we're still better for it. And we're still better because of it. And I just truly believe like it's nice for me to rely on God, who I believe is sovereign. It's a word that's just like, everything's under his control. Because like, if I understood everything, like, then in that case, I would be God. And I am not fit for that role, And so there's just a lot of peace of not having to understand everything and just being able to trust that it's working out, So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, brother, for sure. Well, we're going to start wrapping this up very quickly here soon, but I have two things for you, for sure. Do you have anything before I ask those final two questions?
No, go ahead.
Well, it's kind of funny because you have interesting timing for this specific episode. So the next guest after this is actually going to be Mayor Yemi. He's going to come on, which is going to be super cool because he came on previously as candidate Yemi. Really, it was like when he was announcing he was going to run. But I wanted to ask you if you had any specific questions as a business owner here in Colorado Springs. Is there any question that you'd want for us to ask him in his interview?
That's a big question. You should. I need to think about this first. I love Yemi, man. The last church I worked at, he attended, and we got to spend some good time together. So he's a man that I really trust and respect and hold in really high regard. Really excited that he's our mayor. I love that guy. God, I don't know. That's a big question, but I might end up texting you if if I think of something. But just ask him how he's doing. Make sure he's doing well.
Yeah, how's that first year, right?
Yeah,
he started
right.
his first year, your first year with COS
Yeah,
Hauling, so
that's
there you
right.
go.
That's right. Yeah, tell him I said hi.
Has it only been 1 year since it's been?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he
Time's
came on
weird,
2
dude.
years ago.
It
Didn't
is
he?
weird.
A year before he ran, he came on is I think what happened.
Yeah.
Something
Okay,
something like that.
It was, he was running for a year. Like he was building up the campaign for a year before he came on. So yeah, that makes sense. It feels like 2 years. But yeah.
Yeah, it's been some time. Well, before we start wrapping this up, man, that's your camera right there. Where can we find you? Website, Instagram handle, digits, whatever you want to give that camera. This is your moment to do that.
Yeah, it's super easy. Everything is under COS Hauling. So coshauling.com. Facebook, Instagram is also at COS Hauling. Our business phone, 719-357-7147. You can find that on our website. And but that's where you can find us.
This has been awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining us. We've talked about your business, your life, faith, your family. This has just been, it's going to be a good one for our viewers. So we just appreciate you coming on.
No, thanks for having me, guys. It's always an honor to be on here. We'll have to not wait 3 years for the next one, though.
For sure.
But you guys got a lot of great guests on here. So I love watching it. Keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching this, listening to the end, make sure to leave a review on wherever you're listening to it. We don't do that enough. We got to let people, promote. That helps us a lot, when people leave reviews.
Yeah.
And make sure you leave a review. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.